Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to talk about attitude. Who are you? Like, how do you actually respond to situations, and what do you do in different kind of situations? What is your attitude, and how do you actually respond when a certain situation comes up? What is your default pattern? What are you heading back to? What is your coding? What is your goddamn fundamentals? This is what we're going to talk about today, and this is super important. And I'm just going to start off by saying this. What I'm going to tell you now is malleable. You have the power to change this. Now, I've talked about like some really deep psychological roots in us. That's literally like human behavior, 30,000 years ingrained in our heads. That's not really possible to really change that, but only use it to your advantage. This shit you can't change. This shit is a choice, okay? So I beg of you, please listen to this, because this will actually have the chance. You'll actually be able to change this, and you'll also be able to see on some of the examples that's going to give you that you will recognize maybe some of this within yourself, and there might be some unpleasantries and things that you're not really comfortable with, and feelings like that's a side of me that I don't really want, but you have the power to change it. Okay, you absolutely do. Okay, I'm not saying that just for you guys, I'm not saying that for me, right? You have the power to change your attitude and how you react, how you correspond in certain situations, because it will control you if you do not have that under control, and it will rule you. Okay, let's get this started. If you don't know me, I'm Christian. That was a bit of a long intro. If you don't know me, I'm Christian. I'm building on kind of a business partner maker where we help coaches, consultants win, basically. Now, I don't want to talk about that. Fuck that. Let's get into this shit. This is also a very important video for me, because this is something that has filled a lot in my life and still does, and that has made me make some really bad decisions. And reflecting on later, you just realize that you had a chance and you're actually able to do something about it, where you learned, where you thought when you're a helpless little soul, like many of us humans are, like when we learn the truth, that we're actually able to, in certain situations when we didn't do everything we could and we thought we did, and we didn't see the whole thing, and that gets revealed to us, we tend to become a little bit bitter. And I'm a big believer that you should not stay in the past, and that you should not be resentful and hang on to old feelings that'll drag you down. Now, with all the truth that there is in that, it's also important to sometimes realize that you made mistakes in the past, and things you did, you might not be able to do them as clean. Now, you shouldn't feel burdened or bogged down by these, even though it will be hard. And I will not judge you for feeling burdened down by some of the things that come up in your past, by situations where later on, you figured out later on that you acted like a total horseshit without even thinking about it in the situation. You just fucked up so many things. It will be fucking hard, right? It's hard for me. It's hard for the friends that I know. It's going to be hard for you too. When you look into your past, right, and see you actually could have done something different when you thought you didn't, and it will hurt. But you have to get over it, right? Because you can't change what happened. You can learn from it. You can reflect on it. You can be a bit mad at yourself. And you do need that sometimes. Don't just accept. Sometimes you need to be a bit mad at yourself. Okay? So really listen to what I'm about to say in this video. So let's dive into this. Let's put some fundamentals down. What is an attitude, really? And what is it that I'm talking about in this video? Well, this is when you meet a certain situation, you're more likely to correspond in a certain way, dependent on your attitude and how you unconsciously behave and operate, right? Certain cues in an environment, in a situation, will elicit certain unconscious triggers and actions in your brain and fire up different kind of emotions, will make you act in a certain way unconsciously when responding to a situation, giving you less control. And the reason, let's put some reason behind this, the reason that this is done is because in situations where emotions are high, Humans have learned over time that we need to get out of that situation quickly because it could be dangerous. And there might be some, it could either be like real danger of death, danger of reputational damage, danger of loss of goods, danger of loss of shelter, danger of loss of resources. So you must understand that the reason why it has been made subconscious is because the brain wants to make it faster. So it happens without you really consciously thinking about it, because that is what is the most safe approach and what has been the most safe thing in the past for you as a human and your ancestors, really, right? Because it's not really the same in this. You will meet situations, but in the world we live in today, it's not really this. It doesn't work in our favor, right? That we just react like this to situations when sometimes we should actually think it over carefully. Okay, so that's the reason why they're here, right? And your attitudes and the way that you build your subconscious, you build it from experiences, right? Of course, we have some like different phobias and say like a lot of people are by default afraid of heights, afraid of spiders, creeps, like these kind of things, right? And different colors might scare people and animals because like it's venomous from nature, and this is things that we have adapted. These are not the things that I'm talking about. I'm talking about how you, like the whole outplay of a situation, how you handle it. Because if that were human nature, everyone would handle the situation the same way. But as we can see, a lot of people handle situations in a lot of different ways. And the reason why they do it is because of their attitude and the way that they've been programmed for a long time. Now, this is what I want to reveal to you and how this actually comes into a very big play as who you are as a person. And like, funnily enough, you might not believe me, but it is shaped from your early life, right? Because when we are young, we don't have a thinking brain, right? We don't really have an educated and rational brain. So when we're young, we take in all information without actually being able to see if it's valid or invalid information. We just take in everything that we can. This also means that we might take in some information that's actually not beneficial for us, but because we cannot really decipher that for ourselves, we just got into a situation where reacting that certain way did leave an outcome that was perceived as successful in the situation, then it will stick, even though it might not have been a successful outcome in other situations, like maybe it was just luck that you were referring on. But this is what really shapes these. It's experiences. And where you get a lot of this from is your parents, right? And your peers, masters, sensors, mentors, sensors, also sensors, but mentors too. Like people around you, teachers, and friends, family, especially mom, that high authority people in your life. You reflect off of them, right? And you start to take on their, like, just they've already built it. Like adults, they already have a pretty build because they have built a conscious brain. Now, you as a child do not, so you start to absorb everything you can. Like, children are hungry for learning. They want to learn as much as they can without even thinking about it. It's unconscious because the brain knows that they need to pick up what is in the environment. And we do that by others who are surviving in their environment, which is our parents. They're surviving, they're living, right? They might not be living comfortably in a nice house and a nice car, but they are alive, they're eating, they're breathing, right? And clearly they're able to reproduce since they had you, right? And that is sign of fitness and of health in a human, right? Okay, he can afford to house a child, he can reproduce, and he can bring food on the table, like, and have safe shelter. That right there is all the child needs to know. Okay, I'm gonna learn from that person. I'm gonna pick up what this person gives me. Now, this is also how narcissists are formed, right? And how like really messed up people, psychopaths and sociopaths, are formed from the very beginning of early childhood, of bad parenting and generally just bad experiences from authority figures, and we pick up the wrong kind of traits early on, and we don't really have a control over it, and it ends up just reflecting in our older life. And what our brain does is that it interprets all these things all these experiences that we get into our brain, all of these experiences that we experience, to find out what is like a good way to react in certain situations. Now, let's say you're a child, right? Your parents were very cautious, right? So they always analyze situation. They always made sure not to do anything half-assed. They were always on point with everything. Everything was scheduled. They protected you, right? What will happen when you get older? Well, like what is most likely to unfold is that when you get older, you're insecure, right? You're not really you have a need to both analyze things depending on how much they did. Let's just say it's like a little bit overprotective parents, not like sheltering and isolating you from everything, just a little bit more isolated. Because if you're going like all the way to the one end, right, where they isolate you from everything, I talked about this in another video, they end up with some pretty hefty fucking issues. But let's just say, for the means of it, which is kind of a normal approach in childhood, that your parents may be a little bit overprotective. They're always making sure that they get the right things, and they're always double checking things, like really normal behavior for parents. But you pick up on these things, right? Okay, always check twice. Always make sure you do the right thing. Always look at the facts, and always rethink the decision before you make it. And this will reflect on a child, which means that when the child gets older, it will in it have built the mechanical response that always make double check, right? Always be safe. Always make sure that you're doing the right thing or taking the right choice. Because it learned from parents which have produced it, which, okay, that seems smart, they're alive, they live a good life. Now I'll take this in and I'll do the same thing, so I'll end up in a good situation as well. Right? And this is what the brain does. It takes from our parents and our earliest mentors and really authority figures in our lives, and then it reflects it onto ourselves and imprints it in our own brain. And then we start to have opinions around the same thing. So when a situation comes up, we will act in correspondence with the way that we are literally programmed from the very earliest of our lives. And this could be the double checking thing. So when you get to work and someone said, okay, let's do this, but before you do it, you gotta, you look at data one more time. You gotta check the stats, you gotta do the calculations, you gotta, check the trash all the time, whatever the fuck it is that you're doing. But you have to check it twice, because you learn when a child double check things just to make sure it's in order. I mean, you just do it without thinking. It becomes so second nature to you that it's just something that you do, right? And not that there's anything bad in that. If you go way up of the spectrum, and you can become almost you're really insecure, can't trust anything, and you can't push trust in other people. This is taking it too far, and this means the signs of a bad childhood. And these things that you learn to analyze, and the things that you pick up as a child, it's really important, because you're not really aware of it until you consciously make it aware. And that actually takes a lot of work, and also acceptance, right? The first thing to anything is just accept that the way that we are is, it's not something we could do anything about, right? And the way that we are is it's who we are. For you to really change, you need to know what you're changing, and that takes complete acceptance and understanding of yourself. If you don't have that, if you cannot accept who you are, the decisions that you've made, you can't really, you can't really start changing what you don't know, right? You have, the first step is awareness, then acceptance, and then change. Okay, really important. Carl Jung talked a lot about this. If you want to know more about the subconscious and why we act the way we act, study Carl Jung, brilliant guy. But he also said this, that, oh fuck, I forgot it. Hated one hand, it just blew off my head. But no, Carl Jung, he searched a lot in the unconscious, right? And I don't know if you know what shadow work is, but it's basically, I don't know what I was going to say, but it is working with yourself to first accept who you are, accept the person that you are, accept the bad mistakes you have made, accept the good choices, the bad choices, the bad actions, the good actions, accept your past, right? Because only then, once you accept who you are, you can start developing on who you will become. Because what happens if you just build on top of it, right? You just cover it up. What will happen is that what is fundamental in you, if you don't try to change that first, it will come up again. Sure, you can last for some months and keep it down, but when it really comes to it, you'll go back to what you think is instinctively right to do, and you'll start doing that again, and you'll fall back into your bad habits. I've seen this a lot of time. I also did this to myself, right? Is that you change your mindset, right? Oh, I gotta make money, gotta do this shit. Like, just on top of it mindset. But what they don't do is they actually don't go in and fix the problem. No, they just build new things on top of it. But you cannot build a house on a broken foundation. It will crumble and not be a good house. So you need to first understand who you are and then change the very person that you are. I mean, you hear a lot of people talk about paradigm. I mean, in my own course, I talk about the paradigm as well. But you need to understand, for you to be able to change your paradigm, you need to know what your paradigm is, right? Because when I first learned about a paradigm, if you don't know what it is, it's basically a lens that we view the world from, kind of like what I'm talking about, which is our standard coding. If you want to change your coding program, right, you need to go down and actually study what it is first. Because imagine if I was on a Mac computer, right, let's make it simple. If I was on a Mac computer and I want to run Windows on it, I mean, I could try to download some shitty software and put that on top. I mean, all good. It might work for a few months, but then, like, you can't really install a Windows software or Windows runner on a Mac. Or maybe I think you can. Take my metaphor here. So what will happen is that even though you have put Windows on top of it, it is still running on Mac, right? And eventually, like, the way the system is running, the way the computer works, is still through the Mac, and it will emerge. Now, that might not be correctly true. I don't know how that works. I haven't tried it to put Windows on the Mac. But let's just say that's it. It is actually still operating on... it's still operating on the Mac. But you've covered it up to think that it's operating on Windows. And you think, oh, life is good. It's operating correctly. But what you don't understand, that behind the scenes, it's actually still the old programming that is doing the thing. Right? It's still the old programming that is actually running the show and controlling all the decisions. And this is the same with humans. If you just plaster things on top, I mean, it might look good on the outside and say, okay, I've changed it. Like, I think differently now, but if you just put it on top and don't really work with what's behind it, like, even though it looks like you're running it through the new system and new things, it's actually, everything is just being run through what's behind, like the real programming. And you just become deluded, and you don't see. You don't even. I'll tell you, man. I've been here, right? I've been here. I talk from experience. You think that you're making the right decisions. You think that you're making good decisions, but you're making bad decisions. Not bad decisions. You think that you're making the right decisions, but you think you're making them off your new paradigm. But what you don't understand is that everything is still running, like, in the background on the old programming. Like, you put it into the new, runs through the new, goes back to the old, runs through the new again and out. It will be affected, right? Of course, it will not be a direct copy, and changing and put things on top will help it. But it really won't, like, fundamentally change the big underlying beliefs and assumptions in your actions and decisions, right? It's also, you get, like, the perfect example of this is a poor man wins lotto, right? A man who has no control of his money. He wins $1 billion. Now what it does, like, suddenly he's a millionaire, right? Like, he's fuck ton of money. Now what it does, like, he maybe schools up, like, how to use money, but he doesn't really change the fact that he don't know how to use them. He just puts on top, oh, I'm rich. I take a quick course on how to do stocks, right? So he just invests in stocks, but he invests all his shit, because that's how he usually used money. He didn't use to save up and waiting for shit, right? Because, like, he might seem like he's doing the right thing, but he's making the actions with the wrong intentions in the back, right? He might be investing into stocks and might be investing into real estate, but he's doing it with his back mind, like the mind that's controlling it. And yeah, oh shit, he might make a good decision here and there, but I can tell you most of it, he is going to spend that money in a very bad way, because he's not used to handling that amount of money. And the only way that he's going to get out of this like correctly, if he has someone who knows how to deal with this money for him. Because what happens, especially with money, is that we get fucking greedy as humans, and we just start spending. I remember the first month when I made like 100k. I've never had so much money in my life. Like literally, I've never had so much money in my bank account, and I just went out like to eat with my business partner. Maybe we just went out to eat like fucker expensive dinner, and on top of that, we bought like a new PC as well. It wasn't even fundamental at that point. We just had a very good month. I want you to know, next month we fucked up. And this is what happens, right? You make bad decisions and you learn. And I mean, I've had a shit ton of money on my hands, and I've had and then I have nothing on my hands afterwards, and then a ton of money again, right, and back and forth. It's only when I learned, like, to really change the way that I use money, the way that I use, like, resources, I have to change who I am fundamentally, and fuck shit, that helped. It might have taken some time, and I've, like, learned my lessons, spent some stupid money, gotten into some debt, and got out of it again. But you learn, right? And to be able to learn, you have to know that the fault is actually there. So you have to go figure out what that is. And 1 second. Yeah, it's just my heart. I have a heart thing. So what happens here is that you start to you make the decisions, right, on your own program, and you want to start making use. And so start like really figuring out who you are. A way that I've found working really well for myself is meditation and then journaling, right? So first I meditate 20 minutes. I don't do this consistently. I must say, I'm not consistent with this. Sometimes months where I break and months where I'm on. I'm very inconsistent with this, which I don't like about myself. But what I do, right, is first I meditate. I meditate for 20 minutes or something, 15 minutes. I don't know. This is like 20 minutes. To really just calm down. And the only thing that I'm focusing on is my breath. And then the last like couple of minutes, I think, okay, what am I going to be targeting today? And just try to say, lose all judgment. Use all pre-made assumptions. Come into this with a fresh mind. Right? And then once I'm done with that, I go write in the journal, just write out the problem. Just everything I know about it. Good, bad, everything. And then I learn like the good things, the bad things about it, what's good about it, what's bad about it. And I just start reflecting with myself, right? I start reflecting on what's going on. And I learn. I learned that, you know, maybe the way that I looked at it is wrong. Like I start to look at it objectively. What I do later is that research the topic a bit and find out what other people are saying about it. Like a lot of different people, and sometimes I change my opinion, sometimes I do not. Right? And I mean, this shit can get pretty deep when you're doing it, right? And you start to uncover some unpleasant things about myself, right? And I mean, I don't mind sharing this with you, but when I first started out with it, you know, I found narcissistic traits, like bad toxic type traits in myself, and that fucking hurt. Like I denied it at first, like no, that ain't me, right? But I learned, sorry, I can't. But I learned later that because like the ignorance of me not seeing it and not doing anything about it was actually my own downfall, and I was minding my own ground. And it was only then when I actually started working on it, even though, you know, it was painful to admit that, yeah, I had some narcissistic traits. I mean, I've done some stupid shit. It was not fun to admit that to myself, but I had to understand why I was acting the way that I was, why I was doing the things that I were, and why I've just